But I think, and I'm a naturally pessimistic person, which is probably part of the academic life because we're critics by nature, but we are coming into a period of intense pressure on our sector. The pressure will take the form of splitting the sector into research-focused and teaching-only universities. Under the current legislation, a university must be a research institution, and by definition, it must have academic freedom. If you only do teaching, you're not required to have that in your charter. And I think that is a very serious push that we will see towards increased managerialism when some of us, and you know it's not going to be us here at University of Sydney, because we're the shop, we're the posh cup. It'll be those universities out there that service those culturally and linguistically diverse communities that will then be pushed back to teaching only, and they won't be universities anymore. Academics won't be academics anymore. They won't do research anymore. And managerialism will rule their lives. So while I would like to think that at the local level I can hum a happy tune and, change be the change that I want to see in the world, I think that actually this is something that is happening right at the top. And I feel very distant to that, I hate to say. That's a downer. Kittens are good. Kittens are good on my kids.
Well, look, it's almost time to wrap up, so I perhaps might try and wrap up, and I might try and wrap up on an upper. Perhaps just by giving some of my own reactions very quickly to some of the things that we've been talking about. And it strikes me that something that has largely been absent from the discussion is the positive power of collective action in this kind of situation that the University of Sydney is in at the moment, and no doubt many other universities will be in. We've been talking about agency, and we've construed agency frequently as in an atomistic and individual way. I think what we've seen at this institution in the last month and a half or whatever it is that collective action is not a panacea, but it can play an extraordinary role in raising the political consciousness of employees and students, so revealing to them the situation that they're in, which they may not have been aware of fully before. And secondly, in coordinating all of those individual drives and impetuses in a way that can actually succeed in setting up the potentiality of an alternative ideological centre to the narrative that we see coming from management and coming from most of the public sphere. So I'd like to emphasise the role of organised labour in particular as one possible solution to the kinds of problems that we're seeing here. We live in an age, of course, which experiences a barrage of scepticism and criticism of organised labour, but I think that I for one take great encouragement from the glimmers and sparks that we're seeing here at the university, which I think do illustrate the fact that it's possible to do more than point our fingers at neoliberals, as you put it, Hannah. I think we can collectively adumbrate a political analysis of the situation that the university is in, which does actually call a spade, which identifies the particular problems in the political environment which are partly responsible for our current predicament, and can draw industrial and intellectual and social issues that are manifested on campus into a wider narrative which will allow hopefully deeper degree of self-understanding by their own agents. And that goes to the question that Telly, you asked us, which is the question about what universities are for. And I think we can all agree that universities are for knowledge, they're for open critique, they're for serving the public good in the way that Peter talked about before. But of course, knowledge and education aren't things that are just limited to book learning. Knowledge and education are things that come from acting. And I would hope that the kinds of action that the NTUU and staff more generally than the Union of the University have been sponsoring and taking collectively does itself constitute a kind of action and a kind of learning and education which can, give us both the intellectual advantages of a greater appreciation of our own predicament and the avenues of action that we might draw from it, but also in a more informational sense, just enliven our perception of the contingencies and the facts that govern the situation and the predicament we're in. So that sounded all rather sermonistic, so I apologise for that. I think we should wrap up because I said we'd be wrapping up at this point. What I'd like to do though, before we do that very quickly, is to thank the organisers of this event and to thank in particular Noor Dados from Noor and the other organisers have put in an enormous amount of work in making this happen. Many of them are here in the room. This was an event that was spontaneously organised by a collective of staff with the support and help of the NTEU. Perhaps we can also at this stage also thank all of our participants very much. Like to advertise the next event in this series, which will be on May the 9th at 6:30 p.m. That's another seminar which is going to be on the specific topic of casualisation and its role in the university. I think it's clear that that's something which has been a particular sort of crunch point in the current industrial dispute and in the life of the institution more generally. May 9th, 6:30 p.m, precarious labour and the hidden costs of flexibility. It's not in this room, I think it's in Lecture Theatre 20 in this building. I hope to see as many of you possible there. Thank you very much.